My name is Matt Cutrer. I am a full-time podcaster, journalist, reporter, amateur filmmaker, strength and conditioning coach / personal trainer, and a San Angelo native. I love filmmaking, man. There's nothing like it. I have a passion for it, and I've had a passion for it since I could remember being a child, with a handheld camcorder, growing up with friends. I was always the one coming up with some kind of skit that we were going to create. And, as we grew up, I started getting better at it, and we'd actually do, we'd even storyboard it out. We would block it. We'd get family members involved, and we'd try to shoot like a full feature film on a little camcorder, super amateur style, and then we'd all sit down in the living room and show the family, and it was hilarious. And man, I remember there was one time, we were probably about 10 or 12 years old. I remember my buddy Kurt Ferris and we had just seen the movie Basketball Diaries, and so we were like, let's make something like that, something deep, we're like these 10-year-olds. And so we made this movie where my buddy Kurt's out in the yard playing basketball, shooting hoops, and I walk up and I'm in a suit. And I'm like, hey, son, I've been watching you play. You're pretty good. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, no, I'm serious, son. Why don't you come play for my school at whatever university? And he's like, well, I'll think about it. And then he ends up accepting, and it shows him signing day, and he signs or whatever. And then we show like a couple scenes, him like playing basketball. It looks like, we try to make it look like a game scene. And during his college years, he gets hooked on drugs. And so he has this sister, and she's like, you're going to lose your scholarship. So she ends up locking him in a room and keeps him there so she can detox him. And he's banging on the door screaming. And he's like, Alicia, let me out of here. I need to get my fix. We're like these 10-year-olds making this deep. I mean, it was hilarious, man. It ended up being something that was supposed to be real serious. But as the family sat around and watched it, we're just cracking up. And so from that point on, man, it was just, I loved it, dude. And so I, any chance I got, I was trying to create or write or do something in that realm. But at the same time, I was an athlete. I was a big athlete. I played multiple sports, football, basketball, baseball. And so into high school, I did plays and theater and stuff like that, but I didn't have the time to do theater in high school. So it was just kind of on the side when I could. I was in a few little productions. And it was sad, dude, because I really missed that part, that creative part of my personality. It was all my energy was being put into sports and girls, And so come time to graduate, and I was looking at two different schools. One of them was called the KD Actor Studio in Dallas, Texas. But it wasn't just for actors. It was for anything and everything to do with radio, television, film. It was, producing, editing, lighting, sound. It was voiceover work, everything, man. And I remember going with my dad to check out that studio, and the lady giving us a tour and showing us some people, like semi-famous people that were hung on the wall, like that had been through their school and their program. And there was just this sense of excitement that I've never had, And I always say, or one thing I learned really is that whenever you're on the right path, your God-given path, there's three things that are always true. One is that you're super excited about it. Two is that you always have a sense of peace about it. And three, you'll be naturally inclined toward it. You'll be good at it. And all those things were true with that, man. But then fear crept in, and the other option was to take the safe route, which all my buddies were doing. They were choosing safe universities like University of Texas and Texas Tech University, and pursuing practical education, degrees like pre-law and pre-medicine and business, and
real job.
Get a real job in the real world type deal. And so ultimately, I went with my head and not my heart, honestly, and I decided to follow some friends to Austin, and I was going to go to the University of Texas. I had to do a little time at ACC, Austin Community College, to get my math grades up in order to get in, so I was in this program. And I ended up doing decent enough, and I ended up pledging a fraternity, but my grades fell, and I had to end up going to Texas State University in San Marcos, where I ended up pursuing communications degree with a focus in public speaking, which I would use later on. So graduated in '09 and came back to San Angelo for a little while, worked in television at KIDY Fox, which is funny, where we're sitting, used to be right next door, is now Fox West Texas. Anyway, and I did sales, and it was okay. You know, I was pretty good at it, but it just wasn't where my heart was, you know. And so I moved back to Austin for a while, then came back to Angelo in 2012, I think, or 11, and took a complete 180, man. I decided to pursue fitness. I was back in the gym, I was working out, and I was inspiring my friends to work out too. And I remember I came back because I wanted to get my master's degree in communications. Well, while I was waiting tables, saving money for that, I just knew that that's what I was supposed to do at the time. I was going to become a personal trainer and help people get in shape. And so for the next 10 years, I would really, even though I did a lot of really good for a lot of people and I enjoyed it, I was kind of in direct opposition of what I feel like God's path was for my life, you know. But I think it was for a reason. You know, I owned a gym here called Fitness United, and it was really cool. I had a lot of great experiences, helped a lot of people, still have lots of great friends from that experience. And then some stuff ended up happening to me, and I got back into media and started picking up filmmaking again, pursuing amateur filmmaking again, and got a little crew together, and we produced, first we produced a little mini documentary called Krab, and it was about a local guy who grew up here, San Angelo native, who everybody knew by the nickname Krab. His real name was Kregg Black, and he was this really friendly little old black dude who rode around on a bike on the north side of town. And every time he would see you, you'd be like, "What's up, Krab?" And he'd always do this wave. This was the Krab wave. Everybody knows the Krab wave. And so when he passed, it was a really big deal, and it was, a lot of people were impacted because he was very friendly, and he always had a word of advice or encouragement for people. And what did he used to say? God loves you, and to be kind. Those were his main things. So we made a documentary about Krab, and it did really well, man. It was really cool. It was really touching.
We had this wave.
Yeah, what was that? Do you know?
I don't know.
You were asking what was this?
Yeah. What was this wave about?
Yeah. You gonna do this wave? Yeah.
How y'all doing?
My man.
Salute.
Okay.
God loves y'all.
Heard that.
And in the end, it was obvious. It was obvious what Kregg Black, aka Krab, was leaving as his legacy. What he was leaving for his friends and his family, for his acquaintances, for the San Angelo community, and for the world. It was three important truths. Love each other, be kind to one another, and God loves you. Is there anything really more important than that? Kregg Black, you will be missed by so many, and we're so grateful for the precious gifts you gave us and the reminder that you left for all of us. Rest in peace, Krab.
Hola, hola. And salute to my little mija.
It did really well, man. It was really cool. It was really touching, and I kind of got the bug. I said, man, I got approached to do a local production called Bud, which you were a part of as well. And so Bud, was in Miles, Texas. Some guys in Miles, Texas, some amateur filmmakers who. I think the director Shane had done a feature film before called Country Club. Yeah. And so they were like, yeah, we need people to do this film. It doesn't pay anything, but it's a really cool opportunity because we're going to be shooting. We're going to have a shooting schedule. Like, a lot of people are going to be working on this project. And so I took a look at it. I took a look at the script and the shooting schedule and everybody who was going to be in it. And man, it was exciting. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. And even though it didn't pay, you know, I rearranged my work schedule so I could be a part of it. And it was exciting, dude. And getting to really see what it was like to shoot some real scenes with some people who actually kind of knew what they were doing. Whereas, you know, like me, I just grew up with a camcorder in my hand, you know. So that was neat, man. It was really cool experience. And so that gave me even more of the bug. And I was like, man, I want to shoot my own. And at first, of course, I was shooting for the moon. I was like, I want to do a feature film. And some people were like, why don't you just start with like a horror short? Because I wanted to do I had this idea of a creepy carnival worker, a Carny. And so I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm just gonna make a short. And so we gathered a few people, a small little cast, I think three people total. And my dad and my friend Andrew Wade's son worked on the project with us. We shot it with iPhones and a couple of drones. And I think it's about 12 minutes long. And it was pretty good, man. It was a pretty good first attempt. It was
Cool location.
yeah, and we got to shoot. Yeah, we shot that out at the fairgrounds at the carnival, and it was neat shooting out there because we do some really cool stalking scenes. And there's one scene where the Carny is stalking the girl in the mirror maze, so that's kind of cool, and it builds this intensity to where they get stuck in the mirror maze, and then the next shot is somewhere in the mirror maze they get lost in this warehouse, and then there's a really cool chase scene at the end. So we got to do some pretty cool stuff for that one. And so that's kind of my experience when it comes to actually filmmaking, you know, as it is right now. I also, though, you know, when they were auditioning for a film here called Sabrosa, I auditioned for that, and that was an exciting opportunity, but, you know, I didn't get picked for that. And I auditioned for a few other things. I have a friend who lives in Austin, Texas, Jessica Forsyth, and she's kind of connected there with modeling and acting, and every once in a while she'll say, hey, they need a guy who's, you know, about your height. You want to, you know, you kind of fit the mold if you want to send in an audition tape. And I've done that a few times, but never really gotten anything from it. So yeah, so like, you know, some of the challenges we might have to filming in San Angelo would be, you know, we're a town of 100,000 people. We probably don't have the best locations. You know, we can't, you know, rent out huge, you know, arenas or block off, you know, certain parts of the highway, so we've got some cool spots though. San Angelo has history, but I'd say, you know, that's one of the limiting factors maybe, is that we don't have, you know, exceptional locations here. Also, I would say, you know, I think there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of potential here because there's a lot of talent. A lot of people know how to do a lot of cool things. There's actors here, there's people who know how to do makeup, sound, production, and I just don't think it's been organized enough. There's not a strong enough filmmaking community yet. And so that's why I think Film San Angelo is the group that we have on Facebook is something that we've really been needing, because it's a resource. It's becoming a resource, you know, where we can, you know, get together and say, hey, let's, you know, have this idea. I wrote this script, and then you got somebody who's got good production experience, and all of a sudden, you know, we're working on a short, and then we get somebody else involved, and I think the best thing we can do with that is try to get more people involved, encourage more people to get involved, really showcase the projects we do so people are excited about the stuff we're creating here, and we start creating a buzz more around San Angelo. And then maybe even get SAPAC to do a like a mini film festival again, where we have even if it's just a night of showcasing some of the shorts that we create, I think it could be really cool, man. So I think the future is bright for San Angelo and filmmaking, and we've got a lot of talent, dude. We just got to put it to use. But it's got to start here, like with what we're doing, with our small little 180 people, 140 people we have on Facebook right now. It's got to start there. And I think if, like we talked about, if we create doesn't even have to be monthly at first. It can be every other month, where we do a meeting, downstairs here or wherever, where we get everybody together. Because if we get that face-to-face interaction, start building rapport that way, maybe talk about projects in person, make connections that way, I think people are going to be more inclined to also connect more in the group online too. So it'd be cool to see if we can bring that back. Yeah, I got an idea. Okay. So one of the things that you can do is, and this is kind of what Jeremy and I did, is if you have, let's say you have an idea, because I run into people sometimes, they'll come on the podcast and they'll say, hey, I've been working on this script, it's something dumb, but if you want to check it out, and I'm like, absolutely, I'd love to check it out. And so if you come up with like any kind of idea, like don't be afraid to reach out to somebody in the group and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, let's get together like you and I did, have coffee together, workshop it, brainstorm. Because even if you have just pieces of an idea and you take it to somebody else, y'all can combine forces, and kind of really flesh something out. And then before you know it, you're scheduling a little shoot. You're shooting a film short. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have the most expensive gear in the world. I shot both Krab and Carny on an iPhone, and so you got to start with what you have, and that's how you get that experience. And I think if we can get people to speak up, on the page, start communicating, start talking, start posting stuff on there about little projects, ideas. I think, like I was saying, if we can create some kind of competition or events, like a social or something, where we show certain films that we've done, we get together and really get that, start mingling more between the people who are passionate about it. I think it'll start blossoming, you know what I mean? So don't be afraid, reach out, say something, get involved. And that's the kind of spirit we need, for sure. It'll be cool.
Awesome.
The best thing is, this is something you've kind of been reiterating to me, is if you're creating a film, some kind of short, is to try to limit the scope of the project at first. You don't want all these complex locations and shots, and especially if you're limited on equipment and personnel and stuff. Try to think of something that's creative, that has substance to it, but that's maybe one single location. You don't need a lot of gear. You don't need a big, huge setting and lighting, and you just limit those things and work within the realm that you can. And focus on creating just a good piece of content. That's the best way to start, I'd say.
Finishing something. That's
right. Yeah, is you start something and actually finish it. Yeah. So, I mean, you can come up with literally anything and bring it to fruition. Like, so we were thinking of this idea because I asked Jeremy, I said, what are three things you're grateful for? And you're like, of course, my family I'm grateful for, my daughter, and I'm grateful for indoor plumbing. And I was like, yeah, man, that is something to be grateful for, especially if you haven't had it for an extended period of time. Like at my ranch, we don't have indoor plumbing. You got to go out in the woods behind the bush, and I started thinking, and we were like, I wonder, you could even make a film short about the journey of the turd. Yeah. There's like a rat that's clinging on to one of the turds, and dude, it could be pretty epic. And you'd have to maybe make something like that animated, of course, because it'd be pretty gross probably if it wasn't.